Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be showing you how to repair a cracked screen on a Samsung Galaxy Book2 Pro. Now, for this one, the client said that after the screen cracked, it lit up one more time, then went dark. But the rest of the laptop should work fine, so let's just give that a quick test with an external monitor. Here we go. As we can see, it turns on, we get picture, and it goes into boot. So it works. Now let's just turn it off and begin with the repair. So the first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery so we can safely disconnect all internal cables. To do that, we're going to have to open up the computer. So on the bottom, you're going to want to pick up these feet to expose these screws, and then we're going to take off the screws so we can pry off the bottom panel. Once those are out, you want to stand the laptop on its side and with a pry tool, go all around, gently sliding it in between the bottom panel and the rest of the laptop, going all around up until it's loose. Now that we can access the internals, we're just going to disconnect the battery cable. This means that when we disconnect the screen, none of the cables are going to have any power flowing through them, and we'll have a lower risk of shorting anything in the computer. Now we can begin the actual process of getting the screen off. So we're just going to use a heat gun to soften some of the glue on the tape holding this frame in. So we're just going to go all around with the heat gun, loosening up the glue. Now to remove the frame, you want to take a pick and very carefully slide it in between that bezel and the frame. You want to be very careful, as even though the screen is already damaged, the frame itself is extremely thin and bendable, and if you use too much force, you can very easily warp it out of shape. after the front bezel is removed, we need to remove the screen. Now there's two pieces of tape, one on the left and right side holding it in place, so we need to loosen it a little bit. That way we can carefully reach in and pull the pieces of tape that run down along the middle. Now when pulling the tape, it's very important to pull it straight up and not to the side or down, as it can snap very easily, and then you have to reach in very deep in order to reach the tape and pull it back out. Here you can also see just how thin and fragile these OLED screens are. All those cracks in the top left corner is just the result of us trying to remove the screen. Now we can disconnect the screen from the computer. All you have to do is flip up this little metal bar, and then you can very easily disconnect the cable. To connect the new screen, all you have to do is reseat that connector and flip that little metal bar back down. Now before moving on, I'm just going to do a quick test to make sure that the cable is seated properly. So I'm just going to reconnect the battery and then give it a quick power on and see if we're getting any picture or if the cable is seated incorrectly. Alright, and it looks good, so now we can turn it off and commence with closing up the laptop. Next, we need to apply new tape to the replacement screen. So just line it up with the channels that you can see on the back of the panel and extremely carefully press it onto the screen. We saw before just how little pressure it takes to damage these fragile OLED screens. And again, when pressing it into the frame, we want to be extremely careful with how much force we apply, as it takes barely any pressure to crack these screens. Next, we need to clean up any tape or glue residue that is on the inside of this bezel. So we're going to use the heat gun and just remelt and loosen up some of that glue so we can scrape it off. Now, this process can be quite tedious, so I'm just going to do the rest of it off camera for now. Once it's all off, we need to apply fresh tape to this as well. So now I'm going to use special 1.5mm tape and lay this all around so we can tape it back onto the computer. Once again, I'm going to finish this up off camera, but it's very important that when you're doing the top, you leave a gap for the camera hole. And just like in the other steps, you want to be very careful when applying pressure to snap this thing back in, as that can very easily crack the screen. Alright, so this is how you replace a cracked screen on a Samsung Galaxy Book2 Pro. If you need to source a replacement screen, there'll be a link down below. If you don't feel confident enough to do this repair yourself, I highly recommend reaching out to your local repair shop. Alternatively, you can contact us over at lcdguarantee.com, and we offer a mail and repair service. Thanks for watching.